or welcome back to the Wool Sea Knitting Podcast. My name is Rachel, I am your host, and this is my chatty outlet to talk all things knitting with occasional appearances by other crafts because I have a strong tendency towards hyperfixation, and if given the opportunity, I would talk about knitting 8 hours of the day. So today is Friday, February 16th. It is my lunch break. It's snowing, which is really lovely, and I have not filmed anything, but I haven't filmed a podcast in almost exactly 2 months, like maybe a few days shy of 2 months, because I have been deeply demoralized by how bad the video quality has been in the upload of the last few videos. What happens is everything seems fine. It's in like, what is it, 1080 pixels, whatever. It's decently high quality, and then something is happening that when I export them to YouTube, the quality is just destroyed and it sucks. It makes it seem like I don't care about these videos or care about what I'm presenting to you guys, but I do. And I haven't wanted to film any of the like everything I knit in 2023 because those videos are often a lot of work and they're a lot of fun. I don't mind the work, but it was really daunting to think about doing all that only to have it look like I filmed it through a microwave when it's posted to YouTube, and then have that be like what I present as the summary of my year in just really, really bad quality. So I'm trying something new. I'm filming on my phone, which is something I don't normally do, which means my capacity to edit will be limited, but hopefully I won't have to edit too much and everything will be okay, and maybe this will be a solution, at least for now. So I have missed you guys, truly. I talk to you in my head sometimes. Like, I think about what would I say to the podcast viewers if I was filming a podcast about like this sweater or this hat, or what do I have to keep in mind to show them later. But I have been knitting. I have not as many finished objects as you might think, considering it's been 2 months, but a bunch of them were finished and gifted over the holidays and are no longer in my possession, but they were successes. Things are good. Now it's February and it's snowing and life is beautiful. However, I have a few finished objects to show you. The first I'm going to have to insert a photo of here, and this is a slightly modified vitamin C sock by Charlotte Stone of Stone Knits from her book Charming Colorwork Socks, which I was given as a promotional product when the book was launched. Thank you again, Charlotte. I really, really appreciate it. I love Charlotte's patterns. I knit 3 of them and some of them twice. I've knit many of them as gifts as well because they're always very well received. And so I got this book for free. So I want to say that, and I want to be open about that. And I will always tell you if I didn't pay for something. There's no undisclosed sponsorships going on here, I promise. Okay, so anyway, I knit the vitamin C socks, which are clementine socks, but I did them as oranges because honestly, it's, how can you tell the difference? And I modified them so I did this bit here at the top, and then I did not do any of these small oranges until this bit at the toe. And then I did the 1x1 here and the 1x1 at the cuff. But basically, yeah, I followed this chart, and then I followed this chart, but only here. I also modified it to be a traditional heel flap and gusset as opposed to a short row heel because you lose a lot of stretch in a colorwork sock. And the person I made these for is a fellow wide-footed woman. And so as a wide-footed woman, I knew a short row heel probably wasn't going to give enough stretch over the heel, and like, which is for me at least the widest part of my foot. So I did not a short row heel. I did a traditional heel flap and gusset. I also really like that construction. I think it's a lot of fun. So that's what I did. Because again, my friend is a fellow wide-footed woman, I knit them in the largest size for the colorwork charts, but then went down to a standard, I don't know, 68 stitch circumference for the plain stockinette bits, and they were well received. One of them is slightly too tight. I don't know why. I must have messed up my stitch counts at some point. I used ladder back jacquard to catch floats. I find that is a much stretchier way to catch floats, and it makes them a lot less visible on the front of the work, which is good because with a very light main color and darker high saturation contrast colors with the orange and the green, I really wanted to make sure that you weren't going to see those colors against the white background. So ladder back jacquard was really good for that. But also I find part of the reason why I really like Charlotte Stone's colorwork socks is because you don't have to catch floats very often. I am very happy in general to see that colorwork is catching on and is currently, you know, in vogue with my fellow podcasters. And I see a lot of anxiety in fellow knitters about how often to catch floats. I catch them about every 7 stitches if it's a really small circumference like colorwork, and then usually every 4 or 5 if it's a larger, if the stitches are larger and the socks are larger. But in general, I've never really had a problem getting caught in floats. I've never had anyone report having a problem getting caught in floats, in mittens or socks. Just like, I don't know, curl your toes as you put your foot in the sock and you'll be fine. Yeah, so that's my first finished object. It was a gift. It was a birthday gift because my friend loves the orange julep very much. It's a sort of tourist attraction cultural icon, but it doesn't really signify anything. It's a fast food stand on the outskirts of Montreal that is shaped like a giant orange. And they have a specialty drink called the orange julep, which is like drinking an orange creamsicle. There's only one. There's one orange julep. It is not a chain. My friend has a painting of it that she did herself. I mean, it's an ongoing joke about how much my friend loves the orange julep, so I made her orange julep socks. And that was really fun for me. I've been on a good gift knitting kick. It's been providing a lot of fulfillment lately, and I want to keep riding that wave for as long as I can. On that note, my next finished object is not fully finished. It is a Musselburgh by Isolde Teague. I think this is the most popular hat pattern in recent knitting history, if not ever. And I bought the pattern a year and a half ago for gift knits and then just never got around to it because there are other hat patterns that require less knitting, but I really wanted to use it. And for this particular friend, I thought that an all stockinette hat would be the best to kind of suit her style. So the reason why this hat exists is because one of my best friends in Ottawa doesn't wear any sort of winter accessories. She doesn't wear a hat, she doesn't wear any type of neck protection, doesn't wear mitts or gloves. It drives me nuts. I have visions of her frozen solid on the side of the road and that I could have prevented it because I'm a knitter and I could have made her a hat and I didn't. And like, it's been a very warm winter here because of climate change. This is one of the very few times it's snowed all winter. However, we still get days where it's -20 with the wind. You know, we walk a lot of places, like, you know, when we're walking to get like a little snack after yoga, or we're waiting in line for like a fancy brunch event or something. You know, we're out in the cold for like periods of time where I get concerned. And so with her permission, one time when she was at my house, I had her try on a bunch of hats to get a sense of like what she likes. And with her permission, I have knit her a hat. So the point of this is to be reversible. So it has like the Barbie pink with the contrast speckle on one side, and then the other side is all contrast speckle if she likes. And she did approve. She chose this yarn and chose pink, and I'm really hoping that that means she'll wear it and not die of exposure. My biggest fear. So yeah, this is not fully finished though, because I think I might have made it a little too short. It doesn't really, it's not really big enough when I fold it the brim to get the full layers. Let me show you. She does have a slightly smaller head than me, so I'm wondering if it's going to be fine because I have a large head for a woman. Like, it doesn't fully cover the ears, but it's still better than nothing, which is kind of what she's been going for. And I want it so that she can have it as either thing. Oh, this yarn, this is Hobby Unicorn. It's like their hand-dyed competitor option. I want to say in the color Gracious. This I also received as a promotional product in exchange for filming a yarn haul and review like a year or two ago, and this is scrap yarn. I had about 70 grams left over after knitting an old roommate fingerless mitts, and I held it double. And then this is some yarn left over. It's Cascade 220 non-superwash that I had left over after knitting a Louise hat as a Halloween costume when I was being the character Louise Belcher from Bob's Burgers. She wears a bunny ears hat in this exact shade of pink. So this is a good scrappy project. It's a gift knit that made me happy. And I have been sick for I had a cold for a week, and then I was briefly incapacitated by a migraine. And so for some reason, I've just been working at a diminished capacity, and stockinette has been good. Normally this amount of stockinette would just, and the end was a bit much for me, which I think is part of the reason why I ended up making it a little too small. But if she wears it like this, sort of slouchy, it's definitely gonna fit. Like, it's definitely long enough, it's very comfortable, and this, it still looks like the brim is the contrast, and I still feel it's reversible. But I've just sent her a text asking, do you prefer hats that are kind of slouchy like this, or do you prefer hats with a, you know, a folded brim? With some example photos of what those two things mean. And if she says slouchy, I'll weave in the ends and give it to her because this has been blocked. And if she says brim, I will undo this bind off, because this is the bind off I started with. Oh, this is what it looks like, it's the tube, which is very funny. My roommates and friends, as they saw me knit this, were very confused as to how this was going to be a hat. I'll undo this bind off, rip back to before the decreases, add a couple inches, and do it all over again. But yeah, I liked this pattern. I'm happy that I knit it. It feels kind of like an important knitter's bucket list thing. And I think that this will be really good to have in my repertoire for if I ever need an all stockinette project and a gift, or even for me, but I have enough hats. Well, I'm gonna make myself another hat, but regardless, you know, number one priority for me is not hats. So this is sort of finished object number 2. And I'm happy with it pending the confirmation of whether or not I need to extend it. So yeah, pink hat for my friend, because I really will sleep better at night knowing she has something to keep her head and ears warm. This is an older finished object. It is a pair of mohair DK weight socks that I made myself over mostly winter break, honestly. And these are just pretty basic DK weight, all stockinette with a 2x2 rib cuff, heel flap and gusset, and wedge toe. Pretty classic. I made this out of the wool strand is this skein of Kat's Riverside Studio merino singles, superwash singles in the color Sundown, that my boyfriend got me as a birthday gift 3 years ago, that I have been struggling until I just decided to make DK weight socks. I was really struggling to find a use for, because as a single, I was worried about how delicate it was going to be, and I wasn't sure what to do with the color, but it was also superwash. So I wasn't sure, and because it was a gift, I wanted to make sure it was going to go into something that I really loved. And then over Boxing Day sales, I went and got this single skein of soft silk mohair in the color, I want to say marine, but by Knitting for Olive. Got one skein, it was on sale, 20% off, to hold with this. I'm getting used to the zoom on my phone for the first time, so please bear with. And I made these socks, and they're incredibly comfortable. They're a little stretched out because I've been wearing them a bunch, and these were really great when I was sick to snuggle up into. I am a bit of a convert to you can see there's some lint. I'm a bit of a convert to the DK weight mohair sock cult. I'm a fan. I can see myself using mohair scraps in the future to make more. I find them to be really effective. House socks and slipper socks. I don't plan on wearing these in boots or anything that's going to rub against my heel because there's no nylon, and I know that mohair and silk is meant to be kind of durable in a sock, but I love these too much to risk it, I think. Maybe I'd wear them with my Birkenstocks, but in the meantime, I've been really loving wearing these around the house, and they were just a really good all stockinette, like mindless project for the bus and for when I wanted a break before bed from my more intensive projects. So very happy with these. I don't think I have enough mohair left over to make a second identical pair, but this is a good amount of scraps that I could use for something else, maybe fingerless mitts if I decided I really wanted some. And I have quite a bit of this left over too, so something to think about to do with these. And I think those are all my finished objects. I have been slowly trying to tackle little mending projects in my knitwear, or other handmade things, or change things that I'm finding are not working. So I did finally, after like 10 months, add buttons to this cardigan. And as a result, I have been wearing it a lot. I have a bad habit, and if I do a 2023 in review video, even though it's now the middle of February, maybe I'll do it as a 3rd year of knitting in review video, because I started knitting in February of 2021. One of the problems, I would say, I was thinking about doing it with like a favorites and flops theme, as opposed to everything I made. Here's the best, here's the stuff that didn't work out so well. One of the things I would say as a flop is that I really, I guess, slacked off when it came to finishings of a lot of my garments this year in a way that I think was just not good. So for example, I finished this in the spring, and then I didn't weave in the ends until the Barbie movie came out, so I could wear this to the Barbie movie. And then even then I didn't sew on buttons. I wore it loose because it did come out in the middle of summer. And then I didn't sew on buttons for another 6 months after that, because I wanted to wear it to go out, you know, for drinks or dinner in the winter. I have found this to be quite wonderful for that. I even posted a reel because I was just so elated when I finally put on the buttons, and I thought, yes, this is exactly what I wanted it to be. It fits nicely, it's comfortable, it's feminine, it's warm. And so yeah, I wore this to the office on Valentine's Day with a smart pair of trousers, and I felt very chic. And I've worn it out for drinks with my friends a couple times and felt very like dressed up looking, but without having to feel uncomfortable. The only thing about this is it's a very scratchy mohair, and I found this to be uncomfortable by the end of the workday, but when I just go out for dinner for like 3-4 hours and I'm just spending a little bit of time with my friends, well, no, 4 hours is a lot of time, but you know, that I don't notice. But then towards the end of the day at work, I was like crawling out of my skin a little bit. But I don't plan to have this as a regular part of my workwear wardrobe. I just wore pink for Valentine's Day. And so yeah, but anyway, I put these buttons on. These were like 90 cents each, I think, at Good Grief Yarn and Provisions in Toronto. They're acrylic sort of faux pearl style buttons, and I was just so happy to have done that. So slowly I have been just trying to, you know, one project every few weeks, update to make it actually wearable for me. Another thing that I did, you may recall, is I used up the last few grams of this yarn I hadn't stashed to lengthen the sleeves. You can see when I pointed out where I added it and when I grafted it in. And this is my favorite card. Oh, this is the Field Day cardigan by Ozetta Knitwear. I made this 2 or 3 years ago. It's probably my most worn garment that I've made. I just keep it on the back of my desk chair all the time. I don't even put it away. I don't bother. I wear it almost every day. And I love it. I made this in Green Mountain Spinnery weekend wool, and it's great, but the sleeves shrunk, so I added some more, and that was a mending project that has really refreshed this for me. Added buttons to this cardigan and have woven in ends on a bunch of other things that have been languishing for months, and then I don't wear them, which is a waste. Anyway, up next is I shrunk this sweater on purpose. I felted it by putting it in the washer and dryer, I think twice. And it has a pretty significant alpaca content, which shrinks down quite nicely, because the sweater had shrunk a little bit in the wash by accident over the summer when I was putting everything away to prevent any bugs getting in. And then also I felted the armpits by like wearing it too much, which is kind of gross. But anyway, it was a little bit too tight. So I want to make mittens out of this for my roommate. It's one of the first sweaters I ever made. It lived a beautiful life. I wore it a ton at the time. I was so proud of myself. I was so proud of it, and I wore it a lot, and I haven't worn it very much in the last year and a half. And then it got too small, and now I want it to go and live a much longer, happier life in the form of mittens. However, I'm a little nervous about making mittens out of felt. If anybody has any pattern recommendations or overall tips for making mittens out of felted sweaters, please let me know. I am very eager for input and advice on this. Moving into whips, we have a couple. First, and I want to say one of the more exciting whips, is my Storm Sweater. I have finished the body and the collar, that's a swatch for something else, and blocked it. and I would say I'm pretty happy with this. It's been on the needles for a long time because it's kind of been a back burner project because I've had a lot of gift knits with sort of deadlines attached. But yeah, I did my classic use a much softer yarn for the inner part of a folded neckband because this is a more rustic, untreated wool. And while I don't find it particularly scratchy, my neck is quite sensitive, and it's just like a fun personal signature, a fun pop of color, especially in a more neutral garment. I am happy. I really like how this yarn blocks out. I think it becomes very soft and fluffy in a way that I really like, and I don't think if you were to feel this garment before it was blocked, you'd expect it to end up this lovely. This is made in Long Way Homestead 2-ply DK. It's a Rito Arcot and I think Canadian Arcot sheep wool blend, and it's undyed and I really like it. I picked it up at Knit City Montreal, and I have wanted a big, cozy, classic, long wearing sweater out of it. And I think that I will get that in the form of this storm sweater. However, it is a 2-ply, and I think the overall textured pattern of this would maybe have been better suited in a 3-ply and a more round and plump yarn. But the thing is that I wanted a sweater in this, and I didn't want it to be stockinette. And so even if it's not in as sharp relief as it otherwise would have been if I had gone with the pure Gint that the pattern recommended, or the sample was knit in, or another rounder yarn that, you know, for example, would also be better for cables, I'm still getting a really fun knitting experience and a sweater I'm gonna really like. But I blocked it and I thought, I don't know if that's as visible as I thought. It's coming across a little bit more visible and strongly on camera, which is nice to show you guys. But yeah, I, as you can see, have not picked up for either sleeve to do the sleeves because my other whip has been taking up more of my attention. But that's something I feel like I will do this weekend because my other whip, as well as the Musselburgh, have been in all stockinette stitch for the last little while, and that's slowly starting to be less interesting to me as I am less sick and have more energy. So yeah, my storm sweater. I'm making this in the 2nd size, which because I was just barely on the inside of the 3rd size range, and I am sort of playing yarn chicken. I have used 3 full skeins for the body, which leaves me with a little bit less than a skein for each sleeve because the bottom band and the top neck were both breaking into 2 new skeins. But yeah, I'm not as concerned, especially since I have pretty short arms, so I'm gonna have to shorten them than what the pattern recommends. So I think I'll be okay, but rather safe than sorry. And this still leaves me with a lot of ease. So yeah, whip number 1. I've been enjoying it. I really like a knit purl texture. I like a lot of the details in this quite a bit. I love the look of shaping a neck with these increases that leave a visible line. I think it's so simple and so effective. A lot of patterns that I admire contain this kind of detail. I think it's really nice, and I really enjoyed this type of knit purl knitting. I feel like it gives the same impression as a woolly fisherman knit sweater, but feels a lot more modern and fresh. And I really like the shoulder shaping on this when it's worn, and I really enjoyed working with this wool. So this has mostly been a pretty fun project. It's just kind of been a special treat project and not something that has received as much attention. I am worried that it's not going to be able to get as much wear this year because I feel like by the time I finish it, it'll be the end of March, but realistically, we'll still have plenty of cold days, and I imagine I will probably wear this as an overlayer quite a bit. Even when it's not cold enough to wear jackets, this will probably be part of my transitional wardrobe, in part because I'm just really excited about it. So my next whip, which has gotten all of my attention this week and a lot of my attention the last few weeks, is a Lakes pullover by Ozetta Knitwear in Barocco Vintage, not DK, Barocco Vintage worsted, which is just called Barocco Vintage. for my brother. It doesn't look very good because the neckline is not, sorry, the collar has not been added, and there's a bunch of ends flopping around everywhere. But yeah, so the story with this is my brother asked me to make him a cardigan, and I said sure. And I made him give me such a specific list of wants and please avoids for this cardigan: collar, where does do you want a round neck or a shawl collar or a V-neck? How much texture, what kind of colors, how much ease? He sent me samples or like examples that he found online. He gave me an itemized list. I thought this is fantastic. He gave me a list of preferred colors. And from that, I narrowed down what it was going to be to the Viridian cardigan by Rebecca Clow of the Crea Bea Knitting podcast. This is something that was published in one of the more recent issues of Pom Pom magazine, which I got. And I was like, yes, it's going to be this. It's a slip stitch rib cardigan, knit from the bottom up. It's in a worsted weight. My brother wanted something on the chunkier side. And I think that'll be a lot of fun for me. He likes a drop shoulder. He didn't want a shawl collar. I was like, bing, bang, boom. And he wanted it in a camel color. So I went to Knitomatic, one of my favorite yarn stores in Toronto, lots of budget yarn options. Got one of my favorite gift knitting yarns for sweaters because it's soft and easy to care for. Holds up well over time. Barocco Vintage. And I chose this color. And I got a sweater's quantity of it. And I put it in a box and I gave it to my brother and he unwrapped it and I said, I will knit you that cardigan in this color. And he said, great, thanks so much. And then he came over to my mom's house where I was staying in a t-shirt in December in Canada. So he got cold and he said, hey Rachel, do you have a sweater I could borrow? And I said, yeah, it's just gonna be a little short on you. So I gave him my Lakes pullover that I knit in the second size. And it fit him really, really well, except it was like 3/4 length sleeves and a crop top on him, which was very funny, but it fit him in the chest very well. So he wore that for the rest of the evening. And then at one point he turned to me and he said, can we scrap the cardigan plan and can you just make me something like this? And I said, in the color of the yarn that you chose for the cardigan? He says, no, I want it as close to this sweater as possible. So here's a photo of my brother in that sweater. I have blurred out his face because I have not gotten permission to post this photo. And yeah, he wanted that, but he wanted it in close to the same color. He wanted it in a little bit of a softer yarn because I knit that in Knit Picks Simply Worsted, which is a non-superwash treated, non-merino wool. I don't know what breed of sheep they used. I think it's probably a blend. And he wanted it to be something that's a little bit easier to care for. So I went back to Knitomatic, tail between my legs. I said to the owner, I'm so sorry, but may I return most of the skeins that I bought from you a few days ago for another color? And I cast on his legs. So yeah, this is a wool, superwash wool and acrylic blend. And yeah, this color I want to say was like mustard. And I want to say this is like oat melange or something. I'll put it in the description box, but this has been good. I really like the Lakes cardigan. Nope, the Lakes pullover. I love mine. I brought it with me to Toronto. It's one of my most worn sweaters of the past year. I wear it as like a fancy sweatshirt. And I really enjoy the pattern because even though it's all stockinette, which could get boring, there's a lot of shaping and separate parts, which make it feel continually engaging. There's 5 separate sections of short rows. I love doing short rows. Doing the saddles and then the front and the back and joining I feel a certain sense of accomplishment with each section, like yes, I get to check that off. And yeah, so it's been good. And I've just been knitting stockinette in the round and stockinette in the round and stockinette in the round. My brother thought about it for a little longer and then said, hey, can you make it so there's a little bit more room in the shoulders? My brother is very broad shouldered. He likes working out. It's a big part of his mental health practice. And so I've gone up a size to a medium for him, which is going to give him very little positive ease. But that's what he liked. Like, it's very funny that we fit in the same sweater because for me, it's a big bulky sweatshirt and for him, it's like a nice fitted sweater. I think it's funny. My brother very often has ideas of what he wants me to knit him and then he sees something that I have and he says, I take it back, I just want that. So at this point, we now have matching sibling Stone Knits Magic Toadstool socks and we will very soon have matching sibling Ozetta Lakes pullovers. But yeah. This has been my priority for a couple reasons. One, it's been very easy to do on the bus because it's only now getting big. It's been easy to do over Zoom calls when I'm not required to take notes. It's been very easy to do while recovering from a cold, and it's just been, I've been reading a lot, like ebooks, so it's just been very, very good for once I've been in the round, just knit, 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 knit. I don't even really notice the progress, and then all of a sudden I look down and I have another inch, and that's really nice. But also because I would like to give this to my brother before winter is over. And Toronto, where he lives, is a warmer climate than where I live, and winter typically ends just a little bit sooner. That's not always true, and I'm not trying to say Toronto is a warm place, but spring is approaching. The groundhog said so. And so my goal is to be able to give this to my boyfriend when he comes to visit next weekend to bring home to Toronto for my brother. So I'm going to see if I can finish this in the next 9 days. And if I can, that's great. And if I can't, then he'll get it at Easter. And he'll still be able to wear it again the same way that I would wear my storm sweater if he gets it at Easter, where, you know, maybe you're not wearing it in the depths of cold with a jacket on top, but as like outerwear almost, while he is a man about town. But yeah, I am very happy to be making this pattern a second time. I like it. I've had enough distance from the first pattern. I enjoy it. I know what I'm doing, and for some reason I've really been enjoying stockinette in the round, which is something that normally bores me to have too much of. Normally I like having one stockinette in the round project and then one more interesting project, but lately I've just been wanting to make this, which is good because I don't feel pressed by this deadline. I just feel, and I knit, and I knit, and I knit, and I knit. So that's been really enjoyable. Yeah. All right, next work in progress. I have been spinning, just more slowly. I spun half of a braid I had of this merino sliver by Fleece Artist in the color Sangria. And this was a real pain to spin. Something about this, I feel like it's maybe just a smidge felted or matted. I can't, like, drafting is almost impossible. I'm really tugging. I am yanking. I try pre-drafting even before I take it off the main thing, and it barely works, and I've had very little control as I spin, and I feel like I'm finding myself with a finished project that is similar to beginner mistakes that I stopped making a few months ago in my spinning, where I'm kind of just, I'm struggling not to just spin the staple length, so I have like thick and thin bits, which, I mean, is fine. It's all gonna work out, and it's gonna be for a balaclava, but I haven't been as drawn to spinning because it's just been kind of a pain to work. I don't know if this is typical for Fleece Artist braids, but like, seriously, like, look at how I'm yanking. I'm putting my whole energy into doing that, and it's barely working, and I feel like I'm ripping it as opposed to nicely drafting. I don't really feel like I have my spinning terminology immediately accessible to me in this moment, and I don't know if I'm explaining things well, but I love this color. It will be a baby bear balaclava once I finish spinning this, but it's taken a lot longer to spin than it normally does, and it's just been a little bit slower going. But yeah, I am still spinning, so that's another work in progress. And I have continued working on my spiral mittens that I'm hoping to release as a free pattern as a thank you for 5,000 subscribers. Most of the work I've done on that you can't really see physically right now because I've just been redoing shaping for the thumb over and over again. I have finally cracked it. I have the chart all worked out, but that's going to be something I do when I get tired of my stockinette lakes, and hoping for a March release, which I know is not when anybody really wants to be making mittens. I understand that the Southern Hemisphere will be entering colder months around then. However, do you guys wear a lot of mittens? Please let me know. However, I still want to have it available. I've been having a lot of fun with taking a stab at pattern writing, and knowing that I'm not charging money for it takes a lot of the pressure off. But I still want it to be good. I still want the chart to make sense, and I want to have the instructions clear. I feel like I should have people test it. However, I have so little to offer them in terms of compensation because it's going to be a free pattern. They're really just doing me a favor because, you know, normally you get a pattern for free, and you get the finished pattern for free when you test. And then a lot of designers I know will then offer another pattern from their library also for free as a thank you. But I don't have a pattern library, and the pattern's going to be free to begin with, but I'll cross that bridge when I have a fully finished pattern. But yeah, that's also been fun. I've just been chugging away at a bunch of little projects. So yeah, I should get to acquisitions because I do have a few since it's been 2 months since I filmed. The first acquisition was this single ball of soft silk mohair for the socks. The next acquisition is I got during the same purchase as this. I got on sale 4 skeins of the Fiber Co. Zero in the color Uranus, which is this like aqua green. And this is an interesting yarn. I wanted to try it for a while. It is sport weight, and in 50 grams you get 225 meters. It's 40% alpaca, 40% cotton. That's the thread that you see there. And then 20% wool. And I got this, I had been waiting for it to go on sale because I expected it to go on sale for Boxing Day. I got this to work the Zero pullover, which is funny, it's the same name as the yarn, from the issue 6 Skyward of Making Stories magazine, which has a lot of really beautiful patterns. And this is a DK weight fluffy sweater with lace, with a lace yoke. Here's what it looks like. And I thought that this would be a really great way to avoid having to hold multiple strands together and give the sort of marled effect. I'm looking for another photo. Give the sort of marled effect of this sweater, except I kind of regret my choice of color of yarn. The color that I really wanted was sold out. It was a sort of purpley gray. And then I was waffling between a blue and this. My boyfriend who was with me really preferred this, and I let him sway me because I had just knit like 2 blue things. Oh, here's a better photo. Gorgeous, fun, wearable. I had just finished a blue sweater. I think I was wearing it at the time. And my boyfriend said, why don't you go with the green because you just knit blue? And I thought, yeah, that makes sense. And I regret it. I wish I'd gone with the blue. However, can't return or exchange things you bought on sale. So I have them. And I think I'm still going to have to hold off. I was going to make this in the spring. I think I'm going to hold off making this until I get a blue or a gray that I want for the Zero pullover. And in the meantime, I might try and sell this. But I think what's more likely going to happen is I knit a cardigan out of this. I might have to buy 1 more skein, but I was thinking about it. And it was at the front of my brain because, and this will be something that I go into more depth in a future episode when I start the project, but one of my best friends in this whole world is getting married this spring. And I've offered to knit her a cardigan as a wedding gift. She can wear it the day of as she's getting ready, or in the evening when it gets cold if she wants, of the actual wedding. But it's not meant to be like you have to wear this as an obligation as part of your bridal outfit. It is, you're getting married, this is a milestone, I love you, I'm gonna make you a cardigan. So she gave me yarn from her stash that's like special yarn that she was waiting for something to do with. And we chose a pattern together. It's gonna be the Georges pattern, which is very commonly a bridal knit by Johanna. By Colibri by Johanna. It's a wrap cardigan, but most people wear it as a bow and it's kind of reversible. You can have it as an open back with the bow in the back, or as a wrap cardigan. And the more I look at that, the more I think, wow, wouldn't that be nice for me to own in green? I also might knit the Luz cardigan, which is a 2 strands of mohair held together. Both the Georges and the Luz are 2 strands of mohair knit together. I feel like this would be a very good replacement that's much less money than that, because each one of these is like $18 Canadian for 50 grams, but the meterage is pretty generous. So I know I could get a cardigan in 4 or 5 skeins. I got it on sale to begin with versus 2 strands of mohair held together would be a lot more money. Even a lot of Surrey silk. And so I think this will be really good for nailing the gauge with only 1 strand, a lot more manageable, a lot more affordable. So I think I might knit the lows into this as part of my wedding guest outfit for another 2 weddings I'm attending this summer, or just as a cardigan for fun, for spring, for wearing to the office, for being a happy person in a fluffy cardigan. So yeah, 2 skeins. No, I have 4, but I'm only showing you 2. 4 skeins of the Fibre Co. Zero in the color Uranus. Yeah, it's a beautiful color. I just don't want the zero in it. I have a vision and I need to honor that vision, you know? My other acquisition that's yarn is last month I was in Montreal for my friend's birthday to give her the orange julep socks. And I met another friend for brunch in the plateau. And then I went and I missed the bus by 30 seconds. I watched it go away. And I was in the plateau and I knew that Hélène Biscuit had opened up a yarn store in the past couple of years in the plateau. So I checked its location and it was literally 2 blocks away from the bus stop, and the next bus wasn't coming for another 15 minutes. And it was snowing and there was no bus shelter. And I said, fuck it, I'm going to the yarn store. I want a little treat. And I hadn't gone to Hélène Biscuit before. They're kind of a chain. I know there's also a store somewhere else in Montreal, and I think in another part of Quebec, and then also in Quebec City. And I'd seen them at Knit City Montreal and a couple other festivals. And for some reason, I think because, so they have stores with a whole bunch of different brands and a pretty wide variety of, you know, price points and famous and less famous brands and whatever. But at Yarn's festivals, they have mostly just their in-house brand of hand-dyed yarn, and they do a lot of self-striping yarns that are really gorgeous. But I wasn't super interested in their sock yarns or a lot of their like hand-dyed stock, so I was never really that into going into Hélène Biscuit versus, for example, Espace Tricot or other Montreal or Quebec yarn stores. And man, I had been missing out. I went into their store and the vibes were great, and I loved their selection. They had Noro, they had Sandnesgarn, they had drops, they had like so many yarns that I liked, that I knew was reliable, that I was interested in trying, like I said, at a variety of price points, and I just really liked it. And so I went in there thinking I'd get myself a little self-striping sock yarn, and instead they have also a bunch of like local Quebec dyers, which is nice. I like trying different Canadian yarns. There is one yarn that I'm really interested in getting a sweaters quantity of when I work through all my existing sweater quantities. But I got this. This is nope, I don't even know. It's Louise Robert design. Louise Robert? I don't know. It's their DK Pure base. It's 90% superwash merino, 10% silk. And like I said, it's a DK. It's 115 grams and 260 meters. And it's gorgeous. It's this really deep green with like a little bit of teal hints. It's really not showing up on camera, which is a darn shame. But yeah, no, it's collection Louise Robert design, and it's hand-dyed yarn. I think the color is Poseidon. Yeah, the color is Poseidon. And I got one skein to make myself a hat. There we go. Gorgeous. I saw it, I wanted it, this was my special treat, I bought it, and I caught the next bus. Or no, I think I missed one bus and then got the one after. But yeah, so if you're in Montreal and you want to hit up a couple different yarn stores, I do want to add Hélène Biscuit to your potential itinerary, as well as Espace Tricot, which is always lovely but very famous, even outside of Montreal and Canada. And yeah, this is super soft. I have a sensitive forehead. This is not bothering me at all. And at first I thought I would make the Chelsea toque out of it. Toque is the Canadian word for beanie or hat. And by Kiyomi Bergen, but it's not the right gauge, and I don't think I have enough to knit it at a tighter gauge. And I was looking at the pattern, and it's a lace hat, and I still really want to make it, but I don't think I will be able to adapt it to a DK weight as opposed to a really thick worsted weight, which is what it is, which is why it's an effectively warm hat. But instead, I think I might make a weekender hat by Petiteknit, which feels super basic, but you know what? A basic hat is a great accessory. It's something like my basic hats and my basic winter items are the things I wear the most in my knitwear collection. I think it's more fun to talk about, you know, garments that I wear a lot, but realistically, I wear my knit hats every day. I wear my mittens every day, as long as I leave the house. And so I think that that will be something really good for this. And so I'm waiting to get bored of other things and then have this be my transit commute knit, my lunch break knitting, etc. But yeah, this is my last acquisition. That's not true. I got an issue of Pom Pom. I got the final issue of Pom Pom. I got the second last copy available at Wabi Sabi, the yarn store that's easier to get to via bus in Ottawa. It's the weaving edition. And as much as I love this color pullover, the one that really grabbed me that I really want to make is the coverlet pullover. Is that not phenomenal? I think it would be so much fun to make. Who is the designer? Olivia Glennon. I think it's gorgeous. I want to make it, and I am hoping to do it, I don't know, next year. The only thing is, I bought it with my friend Charlotte. We sat down at the Ministry of Coffee down the street from the store. We poured over this, looked at every single pattern, and we were so excited about the coverlet. We went to it first, we were gushing over it, and then I read more closely and it's steeked. And I don't want to knit this steeked. You steek it at the armholes. It looks like a raglan. I guess it is still technically a raglan, but instead of increasing or decreasing, if you're going bottom up or top down, you cut into it there. And I don't want a bulky seam, especially since you have to like sew it down and reinforce it at my armpits. I am a sweaty individual. Sorry that you have to know that about me, but it's relevant. I am a sweaty individual and I hate bulk around my armpits. And that means it's gonna be, I think it's knit in a DK weight, plus like folded over, and then on both sides, that's just gonna be, like sensory wise, it's so uncomfortable for me to think about. And so yeah, you're supposed to cut into it here and then sew the sleeve that you knit separately to the body, which I guess you knit in one piece, and it's color work, and that's why. And I know that the designer has good reasons for doing this, but I can't immediately figure out what they are, which means I can't immediately figure out how to modify it to avoid the issues that the designer was avoiding when choosing to steek it, which is why it's not an immediate priority, even though it's beautiful, and I think it would be so much fun to make, minus the steeking. I've also never steeked before, and steeking at a curved angle then, because it's like a sleeve, it's going diagonal as opposed to the straight and down of a button band, makes me really nervous and doesn't feel like a good steeking option. And so I'm going to, really what I'm going to do is wait. I'm going to wait and check the Ravelry page every so often to see what other people do. I want to read their notes. I'm going to stalk everybody's projects who makes this, and I'm going to wait and see how to modify this in a way that I think works. I might just do it bottom up and then do a bottom up raglan where you knit the sleeve separately, but then instead of like knitting them at an angle and doing the increases and decreases to shape the sleeve cap separately, I'm going to do the thing that you do where you knit it to the underarm and then put the bottom armpit stitches on hold and then just keep going and then do the decreases. I think that would look a lot better because I don't like the way the seam looks steeked when I look more closely to the project photos, and I don't want the bulk, and I don't want to ruin this intricate design as my first steek on an angle. That's just too many things. But beyond that, it's gorgeous and I love it. And I'm going to follow Olivia Glennon to see what else she does. So yeah, if anybody can think of why steeking, besides the fact that you want the structure and you want the seam and you want the stability when it's going to be a heavier garment with the 2 strands and the color work, etc. I'm struggling to think of what I need to be aware of when I choose to not steek this instead. Is it a tension issue? I don't know. Yeah, those are all my acquisitions and what I've been working on. I do have an eye towards future planning a little bit. I have a few projects that I'm interested in doing, I guess, in the spring. There are babies being born in my wider social circle. One of my high school best friend's older sister is expecting this spring. One of my boyfriend's beloved cousins is expecting this spring. And so I am thinking I will make a few baby knits. I kept one skein of the Barocco vintage in the original color I got for my brother because I think this will make a very sweet winter accessory for a baby. I'm thinking a baby bear balaclava because it's bear ears, and I think in this color it might be reminiscent of Winnie the Pooh. So I'm going to wait and see if anybody is a big Winnie the Pooh fan, and then maybe make this for their baby because it's machine washable, it's machine dryable, it's super soft. I've made stuff using it for other babies before, and the parents have reported that at least for that baby, he loved it and there were no issues, and it was his favorite sweater, which other people in my life pointed out that a 3-month-old can't have a favorite sweater. However, I choose to believe what the mother told me and that it was his favorite sweater that I made out of this. I also have a similar sock yarn to this, which is a merino fingering weight with nylon, machine wash and dryable. It's, oh, actually, I have all the props I need today. It is the wool strand in this. I have quite a bit left over, so I think I'm gonna make a baby hat and socks out of it because there is someone who is expecting a girl and doesn't mind gendered pink things for their baby. So I think I'll make a tiny pair of baby socks for that individual and a little hat for maybe like a 6-month size for when it gets cold again, because I feel like those will be very, very good. You know, get a project out, palette cleanser. That's what I'm thinking of. I think those projects will be very good palette cleansers. I think they will be cute. I think they will be fun. They will get yarn out of stash. So that's kind of something that's, you know, on my mind, that when I start getting a little bit tired of these things to cast on. I also, like I said, am in the market for how to turn this into mittens. I found a couple tutorials online, but I'm not super competent in any of them. And I'm not super confident in my sewing skills, so I might hand sew it, but whatever. So, you know, I want to make this into at least one pair of mittens. I also, in my thread of looking at all my knits, what serves me, what doesn't, what has not gotten any attention, what has not been reached for in months or years, and what are the garments that I put on and then take off because I don't like them. So this turned into felt will be mittens. This buttons put on, feels so fresh, so new, much happier. And another thing is this sweater, which I would consider a flop of 2023 for me, but not because of the sweater pattern. I have no problems with this pattern. I made a large series of modifications and chose the wrong yarn. That's why this went wrong. And I have no problem with the yarn, but I do think I want to rip out my step-by-step sweater and make it into something else. I really enjoyed making this. I wore it a lot that first winter, and I've worn it a little bit this winter in an attempt to like tell myself that it's fine. But the thing is I don't like the turtleneck. It's too stiff. I modeled it after the rainbow dicky I made that I wear under coats to keep my neck and chest warm. But the thing is that that's a much floppier yarn, and this doesn't have the flop that I want. And it just kind of looks weird and stiff against my neck. It doesn't look nice. I'm gonna put this on. So this is what it looks like on me. And I feel like it looks better on camera than it does in real life. I did waist decreasing that I regret. I don't think I should have. I think it looks kind of weird. I did short row shaping at the arm because I had just done my first ever Lakes pullover, and I just love doing the short rows there so much. And I think that it makes the arms look really strange. I also moved the raglan lines from Florence's original pattern because I decided I wanted more space in the sleeves. I don't know, I kind of went nuts with modifying and customizing this, and I don't think it worked. Like, I don't think I did a good job. I also think that this yarn shows the short rows really obviously in a way that I don't love, both on the arms here and here. I don't think that this has enough drape to give it the form that I want, and I think I really made things worse by these weird decreases. For some reason, I didn't go down a needle size for the ribbing. I think I might have been traveling and like literally not had the needles with me and decided it was fine. But I look at myself when I wear this and I don't like it. It makes me feel kind of like Popeye, like super broad here and narrow here, and I don't like it. I also find this funnel neck to be a little too bulky, And I don't like how, because of the modifications I made to where the short rows are and the raglan lines sit, like it very often wants to bunch up here next to my neck. I don't like it. But this yarn is great, but like, I don't like the way the neck looks when it's like this. It's too up here. I wanted it floppier. And then when it's untucked, I also don't like how it looks. And when I tuck it down this way, I feel like it cuts me off in a weird way. So I'm just not a fan. But this is beautiful yarn. I love it. It's Emily C. Gillies Maritime Aran in the color Nimbus. It is a very special yarn. It's 100% Canadian. I love the color. I think it suits me, and I think that this should not just languish. It should be used in something nice that I do wear. I'd also like to say once again, the step-by-step sweater is a great beginner-friendly pattern. I have some friends who are just now starting to knit and learning how to knit, and I have this pattern on deck to recommend to them. I think it's a great beginner resource, but I did a bad job. So I think I need to rip it out and make it into something else. And I was originally thinking maybe I just rip out the ribbing and do it on a smaller needle the way you actually should do ribbing. Because if you look, it like really flops out. It doesn't suit. You can see like it just doesn't, it doesn't suit me. But I think that the problems in this are so much more than just the floppy ribbing that I think I just need to start over so that this yarn actually gets good use. So I made a weird large swatch. I have this idea. I had it 2 years ago too, and I tried to self-draft it and I did so poorly in Drops Air, of a sweater that's like oversized and kind of chunky with stripes of seed stitch, because I really enjoy doing seed stitch and I really enjoy the effect. And 2 years ago I did a really bad job and there were so many other things I wanted to knit, so I just scrapped it because, you know, I tried something, I had fun, it didn't work, it stopped being fun, I wanted to do something else. This is my hobby time. But I think that the Nimbus color and this yarn looks really nice in seed stitch. It's very plump and round, it's an Aran, and I want to do this instead. And I was curious to see how it would look with raglan lines, and I kind of was hoping for something of like a geometric shape. I like that because of the raglan bits, it's kind of triangular here and here and here and here, but then with the thicker bit of seed stitch, it's kind of more of a round stripe that you see in a circular yoke. And so I have my swatch, I have my stitch gauge and my row gauge, and so far I know how many stitches I need to end up with after sleeve separation at the bust. I know how long I want my neck, my yoke depth, and I think I know what my original like neck cast on needs to be. And I know how many rows I have to do it in. Like I know what the intervals I need to increase at are. The thing is that I don't know what the amount of stitches I need to allocate to the front, back, and the two different sleeves in order to get there. So I'm going to do a little bit more thinking tonight about that, and I don't want this to languish forever. I have a lot of ideas that don't go anywhere because there's always so many more things I want to be knitting, but I would like to make this. I don't really care if it's an off-season project, because by the time I finish this, by the time I finish this and the cardigan I'm going to make as a wedding present, I know it's going to be spring, but I want it to be big, cozy, have sort of like an après-ski vibe, or maybe something that I would actually wear while like snowshoeing or something. And I think that it's going to be big, and also it's an Aran weight, so it knits up at a pretty thick gauge. There's not that many stitches in 4 inches, so I know it'll be pretty fast. But yeah, no, I have a vision. I hope I can execute it. I'm expecting to make many more mistakes, but I find that now that I'm only not working and in school, I have a lot more creativity ready that used to go towards writing papers for like fun knitting ideas. So I'm really happy to be exploring that and having some time to do so in the space in my brain. So that's also on the list, along with some baby knits, some gift knits, and some little bits and bobs here and there. And I really hope that this video uploads okay, and I'm really happy to hopefully be back. Do I have anything else to share? Oh, my dad 3D printed me a drop spindle that I haven't showed you guys, so maybe I'll show you guys that next time when I have the chance to test it. But beyond that, Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully we'll talk again soon. Okay.